Hello viewers, welcome back to my tutorial for today. Today I'll be teaching you guys on how to make a wrapped jumpsuit to be a sleeveless wrap joint jumpsuit, and I'll be using this material to illustrate on that. This is a 3 yards of fabric. It's a crepe material. It's 3 yards. I'll be using my ruler, my scissors and my tape. So I'll just go ahead now and start the tutorial for the day. Okay, we'll be cutting the up before cutting the lower part of the palazzo trouser. So if I want to cut my wrapped top, the up will be wrapped top. I'll first of all cut the back before cutting the front. So I'll just fold the fabric into two using my bust measurements. I'll just cut out this I just folded into two, so I'll just mark 1.5 inch at this area for my zipper allowance. Just mark 1.5 inch. Mind you, I say we'll cut the back before cutting the front, and the half length I'm working with is 14 inches, so I'll be adding 1.5 inches extra for seam allowance. So I'm using 15 and half, that's 15.5. So I'll roll that line out. Okay, so I want to make the chalk clearer enough. Okay. So this is my half length. So from that half length, I'll mark 1.5 inches for my zipper allowance, and I'll also roll that line. This will serve for the zipper allowance. Okay, so this is my zipper allowance. So from this line, I'll mark my shoulder measurement, which is 15 inches. Divide by 2, give me 7.5. So I'll mark 7.5 here. I'll come down by 1 inch for shoulder slope. Then I'll mark 3 inches along the neckline. Then I'll connect to this 1 inch I marked earlier on. So connect to the 3 inches like this. Okay, so this is my shoulder slope. So I'll come down by my armhole measurement is 15 inches. That's the round armhole. Divide by 2 will give me 7.5. So I'll mark 7.5 here, and also draw the straight line from my shoulder. Okay, I believe you guys are seeing what I'm doing. So this is my armhole area. So I'll insert my bust measurements underneath my armhole, which is 34 inches. Divide by 4 will give me 8.4. 8.4 plus 2 inches for seam allowance. My waist measurement, which is my half length, which is 14 inches. I'll take my waist measurement, which is 28 inches. Divide by 4 will give me 7. All measurements start from the zipper allowance. Like you start your measurement after your zipper allowance, you just place your tape like this and take your waist measurement. 28 divided by 4 give me 7 inches plus 2 inches extra for seam allowance, then 1 inch for that. I'll just connect the line now from my bust to my half length. Okay, so I'll just try and trim this off before cutting the neckline. So I'll use my armhole curve ruler to curve my armhole. Just place it like this and connect. Okay, if you don't have your armhole curve ruler, you measure your armhole distance, which is 7.5, divided by 2. That's 3.75, which is here. Then you come in from this center part by 1 inch. Then you connect from the midpoint of your armhole like this. That's how to drag it. So just go ahead and cut this out. I'll start with the shoulder slope. Cut my half length. Okay, so this is what I'm having. So for the neckline, I'll come down by 2 inches. Come down by 2 inches here. Then I'll mark 3 inches from away from the zipper allowance. Mark 3 inches away from the zipper allowance. Then I'll connect it to the 2 inches I marked down here. So 3 inches is fine for your neck width. Okay, so I'll just cut this out. Okay, then I'll open up my zipper allowance. So since this is going to be a sleeveless jumpsuit, we won't leave the shoulder like that. We'll come in by half an inch along the shoulder area. We mark half an inch along the shoulder area. Since it's a sleeveless jumpsuit, then I'll connect it just at the upper part. I won't connect it down to this side. Just connect the half an inch like this to this point like this. I'll just trim this off. Okay. So this is just come in by half inch along your shoulder area since it's sleeveless. But if you are not making a sleeveless jumpsuit, if it's going to have a sleeve, you use your exact shoulder measurement. So for the front, I just placed my fabric. I didn't fold it into two. I just placed my fabric. Then I'll use the back to cut the front of the jumpsuit. So I'll just place it on it like this. You can use your pin to hold it up. I'll use my chalk to trace the armhole area like this. I'll be trimming this side off, the shoulder area. You make sure you have excess fabric for the waist area. So my waist measurement, like half of your waist, should be up to half of your waist measurement. So half of my waist measurement is 14 inches. That's 28 divided by 2. So you ensure you have like half of your waist measurement. So I'll just trace it, and along the neckline area, which is this side, I'll just mark here like this, just a little at the upper part of the neck. Then I'll take we'll trim these sides same way like this. I'll just take from this point, that's the waistline area. I'll mark half of my waist measurement, which is 14 inches. So I'll mark 14 inches here. You can see, mark 14 inches. I'll add 2 inches extra. You can add 3 inches or 2.5 inches, but you just need excess. So I'll just go ahead and use 3 inches extra, and I'll connect a straight line like this. That's my half length. Just mark the half length. I'll trim up these excesses, the excesses along the half length area. Ensuring that it's equal with the back part. So that's it. So where I marked for the front, I'll come up by 1.5 inches. Along this side, come up by 1.5 inches. Then I'll connect it in a straight line like this. Okay, I just marked small. Remember, I marked small along the neckline, and we marked 1.5 inches upward along the waist area. So I will remove the back now. just take off the back like this. Then I'll connect with a straight line from this point to meet up with the 1.5 inches. Just connect it like this. Just connect using a straight line. So this is how it will be looking. So I'll just trim this off. Okay, after trimming it off, I'll just give it a little curve. I'll just use my ruler to curve it a little, just small, since you don't want your breast to be exposed. You just curve it a little, a little. Okay, so this is what I have here. So I'll cut the second piece for the front now. Just take out the back. I'm just trying to remove my pins. Okay, so you take one side of the front, you bring your material again, right side facing each other. You ensure the right side is facing each other. Then you cut out same thing, right side facing each other. I'm just emphasizing on that since you wouldn't want your fabric to be different. So you face right side facing each other and you cut same piece out. Okay, so just cut the second one for the front now. Just trying to place it well. So this is what I have for the front part. So it should be like this and like this. Okay, so this is how the front of my palazzo trouser will be like. So I use a bias to turn, or you cut a facing to turn this overwrapped area, the neckline area, and also the armhole area, because this palazzo will not be having a sleeve. Okay, that's all for the upper part of my palazzo trouser. Without wasting time, we'll go over to the lower part of it, which is the palazzo part. Okay, for the lower part, before you start cutting, you have to take your clutch measurement. And to take your clutch measurement, you have to place your tape like this to where the half length is. So you can see this side, this is the half length, and what I'm having here, make sure it's equal with the back part. Whatever you have, you divide by 2. That is how to take your clutch measurement for your jumpsuit. You measure to where your half length is and you divide that measurement by 2. That's just an illustration. When you want to sew a jumpsuit for anyone, you have to take that measurement. You measure the individual because it varies from person to person. For an average size, it's usually 11 inches. So I'll just fold my fabric into 2 using the biggest part of my lower bodice, which is my hip measurement, plus 2 inches seam allowance. So I'm just folding it into 2 like that. Okay, the total length I'm working with is 54 inches. That 54 inches, you minus your half length from it, and the half length I used was 14 inches. So 54 minus 14, you can just place your tape like this and minus 14 inches to get 54. Just place your tape, you minus 14 inches and mark your 54 inches. Mark your 54 inches, then you add 2 inches extra for seam allowance. So I'll mark total of 56 inches. So I'll just rule that out. 56 inches, 56 inches. So this is my hip line, the distance from my waist to my hip. 8 inches. I just roll out the line, 8 inches. Then the distance from my crotch measurement is 11 inches. 22 divided by 2 is 11 inches. I just measured it the way I showed you guys. Then my knee length from my waist to my knee, which is 19 inches. So these are the lines: 11, 8, and 19. And this is my trouser length line. My trouser length line, which I took 2 inches on that line, and on my knee line I'll mark 1.5 inches. That's on the knee line. Mark 1.5 inches. While on my waistline, which is here, I'll mark I'll just mark 1 inch on my waistline to get my hip curve. Mark 2 inches on the trouser length, that's the palazzo length, 1.5 inches on your knee length, then 1 inch on your waistline. So I'll just connect the lines together from my knee line to my trouser length. I'll just connect it together. So I just connect the lines and I trimmed it out. So as you can see, it's not having a fine shape along the hip area. So on my waistline, I'll take my waist measurement, which is 28 inches divided by 4 will give me 7 inches. So I'll mark my 7 inches. And I'll add 2 inches extra for seam allowance. So I'll take my crotch measurement, 11 inches. On that crotch line, I'll take my crotch measurement, that's my round lap measurement, which is 24 inches. Divide by 2. You divide your crotch by 2, which give me 12 inches. I'll add 1 inch extra to it. On my hip line, I'll take my hip measurement. This is my hip line, which is 38 inches. Divide by 4 will give me 9.5. Then I'll also add 2 inches to this side. Please, you take your hip measurement, you add 2 inches. On your crotch line, take your crotch measurement, your round lap measurement, and you add 1 inch. You divide your lap by 2. That's on the crotch line, divide your lap by 2. If your round lap, you take the measurement. If your round lap measurement is 24, divide by 2, and you take the measurement and add 1 inch extra to it. While on your hip measurement, divide by 4 plus 2 inches, and your waist measurement, divide by 4 plus 2 inches. So I'll just connect the lines together from my crotch line to my hip line, then to the waistline. So this is how it's looking like. I just connect the lines together. So since it's a palazzo trouser, I won't be taking my knee measurement. I'll just go ahead to my trouser length and take the measurement at how wide, depending on how wide you want your palazzo to be. So I'll be using 12 inches, including seam allowance. So on my trouser length, I'll just mark 12 inches. This is including seam allowance, please. I'll mark 12 inches. Then I'll connect it to the crotch line. I'll just connect it like this using my ruler. Just connect it. Okay. So this is what I'm having. I'll just go ahead and trim this off. can choose to make yours wider than this, just based on preference. So this is how my palazzo trouser is looking. You can see. So now I'll just use this to cut the back part of the trouser. So I just want to pin it. So for the back part, along the trouser length area, I'll mark half inch. Mark half inch here. On the crotch line, I'll mark 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches. Then at the back part here, I'll mark 1 inch because of the back that. Then I'll just connect it to the hip line. I'll just cut the side equal from that 1 inch. Just cut it equal. You don't necessarily need a slope along the waist area because it's a jumpsuit, it's not a trouser. But if it's a trouser, the back is usually higher than the front. But since it's not a trouser, I'll just cut it equal. You can choose to just go by 1 inch, but not much. Then I'll connect the crotch like this to the waistline. From this point, from the 1.5 inches I marked, I'll just connect it like this to meet at the waistline. It has to be equal at the waistline. What I'm doing, it has to be equal along the waistline, so I just connected it together. I'll just trim it out. Okay, and I'll use my ruler to connect from this crotch line to meet the half inch I marked here. Connect from the crotch line to meet the half inch we marked. That's from the 1.5 inch. So you connect from the 1.5 inches to meet with the 1 inch we made at the trouser length. Okay, so I'll just connect it to the half inch. Sorry, mark half inch of the trouser length. We'll just connect to it. Just connect with the ruler like this. You can as well use a free hand to just connect it. Meet with the 1.5 inches. So I'll just trim this off as well. So that's all for the cutting for both the front and the back. So go ahead to the sewing part. Okay, if you want to insert a pocket, because I'll be inserting a pocket to this jumpsuit, you come down by 2 inches from the waistline along the hip area. You come down by 2 inches, then you mark 7 inches and you notch the both side. You notch the 2 inches you marked, then you notch the 7 inches length. So you just come down by 2 inches from the waistline, then you mark 7 inches and notch. So I'll show you on how to fix that. But before then, you join the front part separately before joining the back part. You first of all join the crotch for the front part from this part, from this end, from the waistline to the end of the crotch using 1/4 inches. You just join from here to here, then you attach it together with the front part. Then you do the same thing for the back. So I'll just go ahead and bias my front. Okay, to cut the front facing, I choose to use a facing now instead of a bias. You place your material like this. This is the front part, the overlapped part. You bring it up and you place it right side facing each other like this. Then you cut out same shape. You just place the right side against each other and you cut out the shape for the front, the wrapped area. Okay, after doing that, you mark 2.5 inches round. From this area, you mark, or 3 inches, just mark 3 inches like this. 3 inches. On the shoulder area, mark 3 inches. You connect it down to this line. So I just connect with my chalk. You mark 3 inches round. This will serve as the facing for the front. Then you just cut. You cut 2 pieces for this. Okay, so this is the facing for one side of the wrapped area. So I'll just place it and cut same piece, 2 of it for the both side. Just cut exactly same thing. I'll use it to turn it. You can as well use a bias, but I choose to just do facing since I'm having extra fabric. So this is the facing for both fronts pattern. This is the facing for both fronts. So I'll be weaving the edges. That must be after I must have finished turning it. I'll just weave the edges. So you bring your face, your one part of the front, right side facing each other. You place the facing like this on it, and you sew using 1/2 inches. Then you flip it over to the back and you weave the other side of it. That's what you just do for the both facing. You can choose to use a soft gum stain to gum your facing to make it have a little weight. Okay, I just use 1/4 inches to join the front clutch together, as you can see. And for the upper part, I just use my facing to turn it, but before I turn it, I gummed it with an head stay. So I just use to turn it over. We're weaving up these rough edges. So this is the front. Let me place it on my neck so you can see how the half finished dress will look like. Okay, so this is how the front is looking. We just attached it together with the lower part of the jumpsuit, of my palazzo jumpsuit. So for the back, and I've also joined the shoulder, I use my bias to turn the neckline of the back neck, and I joined the shoulder. So I came down by 4 inches for the back part where my zipper is going to sit. I came down by 4 inches. Then I joined it separately. I joined the back separately and the lower part separately. So what next we do now is to shape in the jumpsuit. So I'll just fold it into 2 and insert my body measurement. So for my pocket, I'll fold my fabric into 2 like this. Then I'll fold again into 4. That's for the both pockets. We're having 2 pockets. Fold again into 4. So I'll measure this side, which will be the opening area. Remember, I'll mark 7 inches, so I'll be using like 9 inches for my pocket. This is exactly 9 inches. Then I'll place my hand like this, or just draw using the free hand. Just sketch the shape of my hand, just like this, as you can see. So I'll just cut it out. Okay, so I'll open up this area. also open up the upper part. So I'll just fix this pocket the way we fix pocket for our gown, for our dress, just same way. You sew, leaving at about 1 inch here, then you sew around and you leave 1 inch at the other side as well. You'll be using that 1 inch to attach it to the jumpsuit. So you do same thing for both pockets. This is 4 piece, 2 piece for each pocket. You sew leaving about 1 inch here, then you start sewing leaving at about 1 inch here, then you sew straight to this other point. You also leave 1 inch, so that 1 inch you left, use it to attach it to your jumpsuit. So from my waistline, I'll come down by 2 inches and stitch. Then from that 2 inches, I'll mark 7 inches. Where I notched earlier on, I'll shape it down to the length of my jumpsuit. So I'll do just that. Just take my measurement and shaping the jumpsuit, then attach an invisible zipper at the back part using 1 inch, because I left about 1.5 inches for zipper allowance, but I'll be attaching that to it. I just want to use 1 inch because I don't want the allowance at the back to be much. So the rest will go for the shaping. Now first of all, insert the invisible zip before shaping the jumpsuit. So I'll do just that now. Okay, I'm shaping the dress using my body measurement, and I've also attached an invisible zip to it. As you can see, I just attach it to it. At this point, I just attach using 1/2 inch, just close to the butt area. So this is it. It's already looking very beautiful. This is the back. So what we're doing next is I'm shaping it. I've left the space for the pocket. As you can see, I shaped up to this area like 2 inches below the waist. I stopped and stitched, then I came down by 7 inches. I've not fixed the pocket. This is the space for the pocket, and I shaped it down. So what we'll be doing next is to sew the lower part area, that's the center part area of our jumpsuit. So but before then, I will fold the down part. If you can fold it after sewing this part, is fine. You can do it whichever way. You can choose to fold the lower part first before sewing the center area, or you can sew it first before sewing the center area, just based on preference. You can choose to do it anywhere. So if you want to join the center part, you bring the both front and the back, and you make sure they intersect each other, they meet up with each other like this. Then you sew from once it's like this, you sew from this point to this other point. Then you start from here again, the center again, to the other end. That way it will be very easy for you to achieve. But you start from one end to the other end, just like I said. You make sure the center part intersects. Then you sew from one side, from the center part down to the end. You start from the center of your trouser, that's here like this. You sew to the other end, then to the other end like that. For the armpole area, I'll also bias it. Like I said earlier on, it's a sleeveless gown. Well, I'll just fold it in using 1 inch. I'll just bend it over like this twice. Just bend it twice. If I don't want to use the bias, you can do it that way. You just bend it over like this and sew it round. It's also fine. So I'll just do just that, and I'll show you the finishing part of this video. Then we'll just fix our pocket just the way we fix normal pocket for dress. We just fix it. I'll be dropping a link on to teach you how to fix this pocket, but I feel it's very simple. You just fix it the way you fix your pocket for your dress. You don't need that curve, like trouser curve. I didn't make great space for that. You just fix it inward. It's an inner pocket, just like that. So I'll do just that now and show you the finishing part of this palazzo jumpsuit. Okay, this is the outcome of my jumpsuit. Look how beautiful the palazzo jumpsuit is looking. You can see, I just love the way it sits on me. Look at the wrapped area, very fine. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share and subscribe, and not to forget to give this video a thumbs up. Bye.